Joining me now, Andrew Eborn. It says here I'm to describe you as a futurist.
Yes.
I mean, you're a lawyer, you're all sorts of things, aren't you?
All sorts of things. The Swiss Army knife of broadcasting, barrister, broadcaster and futurist. So
I love the idea of futurist. I once invited a futurist to a meeting, and I'll never do that again because it scared the what's the word?
But Jesus,
that's the word I'm looking for without the dump button.
Yes.
But look, what I wanted to explore with you here, and I'd love to hear from you if you've got a specific view on this. It's about the general fear that artificial intelligence, AI, is going to play a major role in elections, and particularly the UK election. So I'm asking people, have you been suckered in? Have you seen something on Twitter and think that is outrageous, should never happen, and then realise it's a fake, or maybe not realised it? And do you think it will influence voters? Andrew, I mean, let's get your take on that first.
Well, I'll tell you what, AI is our greatest human achievement, but also potentially the biggest existential threat. And it depends on what happens. There have been seismic changes in terms of medical discoveries, in terms of what's happened creatively. We had at the beginning of last year, in March last year, remember the Pope and a puffer, and that sort of fooled the world in a sort of amusing way.
Didn't fool me.
Well, there you go. So
I think they're awful things anyway, puffer jackets.
Oh, well, you don't like them. Well,
I couldn't see a man of taste.
Well, the devil wears Prada, but Pope prefers puffers. I worked on that sort of basis. But they also then had these audio recordings coming out. You might remember the Drake and Weekend in April, and that fooled the music. Drake and the Weekend. The Weekend is wonderful rappers. You know about rappers?
I've no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
here.
Millions of people did though. So what they thought is, hang about, these two have collaborated for the first time.
Okay.
And it fooled the industry. And it got millions and millions and millions. The Weekend and Drake are two wonderful artists. I'll play some stuff afterwards.
Obviously, I don't have a clue what he's talking about here, but millions will, yes.
Well, they will. And so what that also showed, though, is how that's working, not just on a visual side, but the audio side. You're now getting the combination of that, where you're getting these fake videos coming out. And what's happening, they are indistinguishable from the real thing. And we've got lots and lots of examples of those.
I think we're going to put some up on screen, I was told. There's going to be one of something, Rishi Sunak. He was pulling pumps.
Yes, he went to a beer festival in August last year.
And he's a non-drinker, isn't he?
He's a non-drinker, so he's teetotal, so that's the first bit of fake news.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I've probably got the image, it was an appalling pint, is what it was, because it had an enormous head.
Oh, so it was a bad pint.
And it looked like a bad pint. There we go, we've got the image there. We've got both images.
Okay,
so
yes.
the one on the right-hand side shows the very bad pint.
Right.
Was the one. You've got the person looking askance thinking, what on earth are you doing? What the most inappropriate pint ever. And the real one shows him pulling a perfectly fine pint and the person looking directly ahead. What that did, and it was shared by a Labour MP to say, Lou, you can't pull pints, they wouldn't have a pint like that.
How can he run the country?
How can he run the country? And that was the whole idea. So it's an example of fake news and the need to absolutely question everything.
I'm going to put this out there because we've had lots of calls on lots of subjects today, but this one I would love to know if there's anyone out there, and you can be anonymous, if you were suckered and thought it was in, because we're all taken in. I wasn't taken in by the puffer jacket, but yeah. Or more importantly, how do you think we should think now when you see something controversial? That's the question, is it? Should we doubt everything?
Oh, absolutely. And I advocate around the world, you must question everything. We're living in a very diseased information age where we're polluted with all sorts of misinformation and disinformation and working on that sort of basis. And
but that makes us very cynical then.
Well, but you have to be cynical because the National Cyber Security Centre, they warned that this is the first time we've got, 40 elections in 40 plus countries around the world, about 40% of the whole population goes to the polls.
It's 2 billion people voting,
absolutely.
Something huge. And I think it's 60 elections, by the way.
Amazing. And Slovakia is a good example. So
what happened there?
What happened there? The parties were neck and neck, and a pro-Kremlin party in the end won, because 48 hours before the polls closed, a recording suddenly emerged, sounds familiar, a recording emerged of this particular politician basically saying how they were going to rig the election, how they're going to buy votes and so on and so forth.
And it sounded like them?
And it sounded totally like them. It's going back to my point about The Weeknd, your favourite band, and Drake.
Oh, they're a band?
Oh, well, not really, but the two of them together could be.
Sorry, I distracted you. Stick to the point.
Stick to the point. But the whole sort of point was exactly that. It sounded like them. And audio recordings are exactly that. So you might remember last year as well, we had the Education Secretary effing and blinding and so on and so forth, and that turned out to be real.
Yes.
Within a matter of weeks afterwards, we had a recording, apparently, of Keir Starmer
telling someone off.
Telling someone off.
Very brutal
and
fashion.
effing and blinding in a way that would make the Education Secretary blush.
So before you hit the retweet button...
Yes.
You've basically got to think, because actually these things can get out and in no time at all. And that one did, I think.
Oh, they did. They always say that a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth has got its boots on.
And also you want to believe it.
Oh, you do?
There will be people who will
They're delicious. No, absolutely. And what you're doing at the moment, I say we're drowning in a sea of information, most of which is false. What you're doing is you're looking for stories that support your prejudices.
But what can we do about this?
Well, there's a number of things. Well, there's a number of things, actually, because you can do certain things. To work out if a video or an image is fake, there's a number of tools already available. So we fact-check everything. There are a number of sites. I do a regular series called Andrew Eborn's Fake or Fact, where we look at particular stories. But there are also certain tools. For example, on Google, you now have an image search, a reverse image search. And what that will do, you click on the image, you drag it, and try it this afternoon, drag it to the Google search button, and it will then show you where the image first appeared. So you'll get a date, you'll get the context, you can then work out, is it actually fake? So all of those sort of tools are really powerful.
I'm just talking about some of the abuse I've been receiving on my personal Twitter from idiots that are generally hidden by anonymity.
Yes, anonymity,
that's the word. And probably lazy.
Yes.
Right? So they don't care. They're not going to check the information.
Well, they should do, because actually what you want to do is make informed decisions. And the more...
Do they? Well, no, they just want to add to abuse and vitriol.
But the more that we can call it out, which is why and what's happening, and the pressure being put on social media companies now is to say, look, take down some of these fake videos. There were lots of paid adverts, for example, Rishi Sunak promoting a dodgy scheme from Elon Musk. The scheme wasn't true, Rishi didn't do it,
well, I think,
and they borrowed a BBC...
money expert,
yes.
Martin Lewis,
yes.
he had to put warnings out.
Absolutely.
That his name was being used.
And you have a number of people, you have fake dental plans being done, lots of people being used in the public eye. So it's not just the Pope and the Puffer, but lots of celebrities having their endorsement on that sort of side.
Absolutely.
Tom Hanks, for example, was used, there was a deep fake video of him doing a dental plan. But interestingly, you can work on the licensing. AI was right and centre, front and centre of the Hollywood strike, both from the writer's point of view and also the actors, because you can do one day's filming and you've got them for the rest of your life and you can put them in the movies and that will be the future of entertainment. What they were saying is that we need to have a proper recompense for that. So the poster boy for this is Bruce Willis, who sadly has aphasia, so he couldn't act anymore. What he did was license his name and image to a Russian telecom company for a particular campaign for millions, and they managed to do an AI version of Bruce Willis, and as a result he earned money even though he could no longer be
he embraced it.
Yeah, embrace it. Understand the technology and embrace it.
So, Nick Dubois, I'm running to be Prime Minister.
Yes.
Okay, and
I'd vote for you.
My campaign is going brilliantly well.
Yes.
And then an image goes out on social media. They're going to have kittens here.
Yes.
And it's of me with a woman who's 30 years younger than me.
Yes, impossible.
Doing all sorts of things I shouldn't have done. Absolutely unbelievable. And it's all true, but I deny it.
Yes.
I say this was fake news.
Yeah.
I mean, would I get away with it?
Well, there are ways of searching, as I say, so you can do reverse image searches, you can put it in context. The reason you can tell about the fake audio is you listen for extraneous noise and so on and so forth. The Keir Starmer one, for example, there was nothing there. There was no two sides to the conversation. There weren't people who would verify that there was at a particular event and so on and so forth. And you have a number of those. There was another one with Sadiq Khan. You might remember the thing about Remembrance Day and the marches.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a fake recording that came out, apparently with Sadiq saying, well, let's postpone Remembrance Day. And all of a sudden, of course, that was going to get everybody, their blood vessels bursting. And what happened is, that was again fake. But you could tell that because there was no context. There was no people to support in that sort of way. So what I would always urge people to do is go and try and find verified sources. If a particular story sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
I suppose that's a very good guideline. Because AI has its positives. And I'll just tell you this is really interesting.
Yes.
People think this is a cheap plug, but it is relevant, trust me. I wrote my first novel that came out about 2 years ago called Fatal Ambition.
Oh, I love it.
And I've been nagged, very kind of you to say so, and I've been nagged, am I going to do a follow-up? It's right for a follow-up. Do you know what? I haven't got round to it. And then I thought, I'm going to see what AI can do. And it's fascinating because my simple mind was, I thought, do a PDF, upload it, and it'll rewrite the whole novel. Well, it won't do that as it happens. The AI I did, I basically cheated it into writing a few chapters, and it was extraordinary.
Absolutely.
And then when I put in a few facts and it came up with this chapter, and I thought, that's not bad. Then I get the choice of saying, write it in the style of Jeffrey Archer or whoever you want. I could not believe how powerful this was.
And it's getting better and better all the time.
I think I'll just wait.
I know, but do that. And that's what's going to happen. Producing a first draft on working on that sort of basis
and then
is
you work.
Really powerful.
I know, I've done 10,000 words.
Yeah,
isn't
that incredible?
It is. Now, I'm deliberately fessing up here because I haven't actually made up my mind. I might actually use this and, as you say, use it as a draft.
Use it as a co-pilot is the best way. It's a phenomenal tool as a co-pilot. When you're staring at a blank page and you've got your copy deadline, it will give you your first draft and you can play with it. And it's not just writing, it's coming up with music, and artists are now embracing it.
Well, I'm wondering of saying, make a screenplay.
Yeah, they'll do it.
And see what I know. It's extraordinary.
It is quite extraordinary. One of the big issues, though, Nick, is obviously it's got to get its information from somewhere,
and it goes around the web,
and
doesn't it?
Scrapes. And so I'm an intellectual property lawyer, so we look at that side. What we need is a fair recompense, and there are a number of cases taking place around the world at the moment with these AI companies being sued. People like the New York Times are suing, and so on and so forth, and big authors are suing because they're using the information.
Well, they are. But what's really interesting is after about 5 or 6 chapters, it started to steal stuff from my first novel, which of course is on the web.
Yes.
And I thought, how interesting. Its brains worked out that there's these characters all there.
Right.
So yeah, I do find it quite fascinating that is coming up.
Absolutely. And it's learning all the time, Nick, and that's the idea. It's going to get better and better.
And it may help us. Listen, Andrew Eborn, thank you. Futurist, litigation, what are you?
I can sue. Intellectual property lawyer. I'll make people money.
AI expert. He's going to comment on my novel. There you go.
I love it.
You can. Thank you very much for joining us.